Here he is, Canada's very favorite tight end from LaSalle, Ontario, wearing a terrific jacket. It's Luke Willson for Luke Who's Talking. Luke, I got to ask you, so you got Danny Dimes, and, Mike Garafolo reported on this show, he had a lot of options, Danny Jones did. He goes to a team that drafted a quarterback in the first round this year in J.J. McCarthy, that has a resurgent Sam Darnold playing terrific football, and as I mentioned, he's going to be starting on the practice squad. Did it surprise you that he picked the Vikings?
No, Jay, I think it's actually a great fit for this year from a couple of different viewpoints. First and foremost, Minnesota is a playoff team, and Sam Darnold is probably the weakest link on that offense right now. And he's played great. I'm not taking a shot at Sam, but you look at the weapons around him, they're very, very good. So if something happens to Sam in the sense of him, not playing well for a couple weeks in a row, or he gets hurt, the Vikings and him are going to want a veteran guy in there that's been there, done that as far as playing defenses. The next option is Nick Mullins, who's been kind of a career backup. So I do believe Daniel Jones is an upgrade there. So it's a great move in that sense. But the other part that I'll say here, Jay, is that let's look at Sam Darnold. In a weird way, he's kind of had a similar start of his career to Daniel Jones in the sense that he was pretty highly hyped, didn't really get a fair shake anywhere, didn't really play super well, and everybody was ready to cast him away. And what happened? He went to the Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, and he's had a phenomenal year. So even if it's just the last half of the season into the playoffs, getting out of the New York Giants organization and getting to a guy like Kevin O'Connell, being able to pick his brain for half a year, depending on how long they go in the playoffs, is a great, great thing for Danny Dimes and his development. So I think this is a smart move on Danny's side. I think it's a smart move on Minnesota's side. It is a great fit here, and I'm excited to see what happens.
And Kevin O'Connell seems super excited about having Jones there. He wants to work with him. O'Connell, a former quarterback himself, has earned a real great reputation for working with signal callers. Luke, let's talk about the 3-game slate on American Thanksgiving that we have right here on TSN. Dolphins face the Packers in the primetime game. Huge game for Miami to stay in the playoff hunt. But here's the thing, Luke. It's supposed to be cold at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. No surprise there. The Finns have lost 11 straight when the temperature is minus 15 Celsius. Now, it's supposed to be minus 3 Celsius at game time. But are you giving the Finns a chance at Lambeau? Because it can't be a big surprise that Miami's a team that doesn't love playing in the cold weather.
Jay, I'm giving them a chance. I think it's going to be a great football game, and I understand the whole cold weather thing, but there's no snow here. The winds is again, I'm not the weatherman, but what I've seen, it's not supposed to be a crazy wind. So I sit here, and this is what I'll say. Sometimes in cold weather games, it's a bit harder to run because you can't cut as much in that sense. So it's a little bit harder to push the ball down the field. You don't have as good of a grip on your hand. The guys aren't moving as fast, etc. In the past, you look at the way the Dolphins offense played, and it was a lot of deep shots. Run the ball, deep shots to Tyreek. The key to me in this one is actually going to be Jonnu Smith, the Dolphins tight end. He's been great the last few weeks, and him and Tua kind of have something going on here. And now all of a sudden, with the run game the Dolphins have with Achane and Mostert, if he can continue to get Jonnu Smith involved, waddle on some underneath stuff, and yeah, you take the odd shot to Tyreek, I think the team can be good. Again, it's not that cold. I don't think that it's going to be that much of an effect on their offense. And look at the other side of the ball. Miami has a very, very good run defense. So that's kind of the strength. Obviously we talked on Sunday about Josh Jacobs and him being an absolute bell cow. So they've got to, bottle him in. So I give them a chance. Are they my favorites? No, I don't. I don't love the matchup. Green Bay is obviously a great team, but the idea that they have no shot in this one is wrong. This is going to be a great football game, and I'm looking forward to it.
I wonder if the NFC North battle on Thursday will be a great football game. Bears and Lions. Chicago's lost 5 straight, but I know you were calling for a new offensive coordinator there. They've got one, and Caleb Williams has been like a whole different quarterback under this new offensive coordinator. Do you see the Bears actually giving Detroit not only a challenge, Luke, do you think they might even hand them their second loss of the season?
I don't. I simply don't, Jay. And there's a couple reasons why I say that. First and foremost, David Montgomery was a full participant in practice today, and I expect him to be playing tomorrow. So you're going to have Sonic and Knuckles going. And you're playing a Bears defense that is a solid defense, but the weakest part of it is their run defense. So that is a bad matchup for Chicago. Also, let's go to the short week. The short week favors veteran quarterbacks. You got Jared Goff on one side. You have Caleb Williams on the other. Another matchup that I obviously lean heavily with the Lions. And then the next thing that I'll say about this whole thing is sometimes when you get a new offensive coordinator in, like the Bears did, there's kind of a 2-week period where it's tough to study his tendencies. Okay, it's a new guy. He's going to have a couple new wrinkles. He's going to call plays a little differently. So the tendencies that they study from earlier in the year don't necessarily always apply. I think that window is now closed. It's going to be very, very hard for him to not have tendencies at this point after 2 weeks. And even last week, they did a great job pushing Minnesota into overtime, but a lot of that was late game heroics. I mean, you're down 11 there late. You got a big kick return that sets you up. You go down there, you score a touchdown, you get the 2-point conversion, the onside kick, you go down, get the field goal, and then you lose in overtime. I think a lot of things had to happen just to get to overtime. I like the Lions in this one, and I like them big.
And finally, the most high-profile, but perhaps least compelling matchup of the day features the Giants and the Cowboys. Drew Lock will start for the Giants. Tommy DeVito didn't even make the trip because of an injury. Wow, this is wild. But you've been talking a lot about Drew Lock this year, buddy. What are you expecting on Thursday?
Fireworks. And the reason I'm actually looking forward to this game is because if the Giants can find a way with Drew Lock, it'll be even more hilarious for the Cowboy fans out there. But Jay, hear me out on this. When I was, on the desk, I obviously kept in touch with a lot of the Seattle guys when there was that moment of who's going to be their starter, Drew Lock or Geno Smith. And everything that I heard out of Seattle's camp is that Drew Lock is the real deal. Geno is, as we see now, just simply a little bit better. He was a little more advanced. He knew the guys, etc. And Geno has obviously played at a very high level since that matchup between those two. When Drew Lock did get in, he was very comfortable. He looked great. And again, the people in Seattle were singing this guy's praises. He goes out, he gets a $5 million deal from the Giants. Obviously, there's some stuff in the front office in New York. I'm not going to touch on that thing. But I expect Drew Lock to come in here and control the offense. He's a bit of a veteran guy at this point. He's had a year to see on the practice field who he likes, who he doesn't, develop some of that chemistry. I expect him to have a great night. I really do. The Cowboys defense is not that strong.
Okay. You got me fired up for Thursday all of a sudden.